So, welcome to Sex Explained with me and Mel. I'm Crystal, this is Mel, of course, and we are talking about cunnilingus this month, which I'm really excited about. But I wanted to delve into like the stigma around eating pussy because I remember when I was married, at the very beginning of our marriage, my husband was very resistant to eating pussy because of the social stigmas that he grew up with around oral sex, and it was highly disappointing. I think we've gotten to a place in our society where people are more open and more comfortable with the idea of oral sex, and it's almost expected, I think, for most women, and women are being more vocal about it. But there's also this interesting dynamic of like this play that's happening that's not always consented to. It's like, oh, okay, you're eating me out, you're a muncher, or you are like, it's like a almost a degrading act sometimes. I guess we talked about this earlier because of the music and also just like the gender wars, I guess, that's going on. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. What do you think that, people need to know about destigmatizing oral pleasure, especially in particular when it comes to cunnilingus or eating pussy?
Yes, I think that the culture has definitely shifted. A lot of it I think does have to play into like just the experiences they've had so far, like, especially when it comes to women and how they've experienced men or men have shown up for women. I think there has always been this expectation that women should be performing oral sex on men, whereas men don't always feel like they should receive. And I think in this, there's been a very much a movement of like women kind of like taking back their pleasure and being more vocal about their pleasure, and expecting more from their pleasure. And so it kind of also indicted a little bit more of the gender. It kind of added to the fuel of the gender wars. But I personally have never really had an issue with eating pussy. I've always wanted to do it. I always loved to do it. But I also came from an environment, and this, like you said, I think a lot of people come from environments where they're being told not to do it or that it's not a good thing, especially from older men who are from older generations. Whereas like nobody talked to me about sex, so I figured all this out on my own. There was nobody who was like, "Don't eat pussy." They didn't even talk to me. They weren't telling me about nothing about sex. So I didn't have a baseline to start from where I was like, "Oh, I shouldn't be eating pussy." My baseline was porn. Honestly, I saw porn, and then almost every porn they eat pussy. So, and looked enjoyable. It looked like both people were having fun. So I was like, "Well, I want to do that too." And so that's where
I'm picturing you like 17, 18 years old. I was like, I want to do that too.
Yeah, I was very much like, I was of all the things that I saw in sexual activity in porn, eating pussy seemed like the most enjoyable thing for me. And I don't know why. I just was like, it looks so cool. Like, it looks like it's so much fun. Like, and so again, like when I had my first experience, I was super excited to try it. And the girl I was with, maybe she hadn't been with the guy who was that excited, but I was like, yeah, like let me, I want to do it. And they're like, no. I'm like, yeah, no, I want to do it. And I think also because I've had all these great experiences in it, it's made me want to learn more. Whereas like you have grown men now who haven't really dove into it. They maybe did it because they wanted to impress their woman or whatever. They did it because they felt like she would get mad if he didn't. Because there are women out here who will literally be like, no, I'm not. You don't eat pussy? Okay, well, we don't need to talk anymore. Like, this conversation ends right here.
And it's kind of understandable though, because I feel like most women, at least statistics show that not every woman, orgasms from vaginal penetration. So if you're not going to eat pussy, that she might feel like she's not getting as much out of it for her, like sexually, as far as pleasure. So it kind of makes sense.
Now, at the same time, we do have, again, this culture war that is kind of like adding fuel to the gender war. So culture war meaning like in our society, there are lots of pockets of our society that have looked down on giving oral sex to women. Of course, when you have the culture shift where women are becoming more independent and they are standing up for what they feel and what they believe in more and more, they're being, of course, more outspoken about what they want. In that realm, we have rappers who are saying very brazenly and very openly that like you gonna eat my pussy, and they're turning it into sayings and phrases that like people that women love, and so in their mind, and they're like, I'm never gonna let a man like mess with me unless he eat my pussy. And so women are listening to it the same way men listen to when guys were like, these women need to suck my dick. The same way women are listening to this and they're like, well, I'm not about to settle for less than a man eat my pussy. Because Megan Thee Stallion said that. If she ain't let nobody be around her without eating pussy, why would I do that? And so they take it on, and so they are a little bit more emboldened in terms of like how they express that. And sometimes, and I feel like of course there's a seesaw of like balance in this, but like even now with women expressing, sometimes it goes a little bit too much. I'm not gonna say it goes too far, but for some men it may feel like it's going too far. Like I
feel like they're being emasculated.
Yeah, they're being demasculated, or they're being, they're yeah, it's like it seems like it's more of a degrading like aspect of sexual pleasure versus like you doing it because you want to. Like it's almost like, yeah, it's almost like because you're doing it you're beneath me. Like again, there's that power play dynamic.
Because it's the same thing as like if a man told a woman, well, I'm not fucking you unless you suck my dick first. Like like that would feel like pretty harsh to a woman. I don't think that would turn any woman on, like the demand of that. And it's a little bit different though. I do feel like sometimes with men they like to take direction if it's done in a sexy way, and if y'all have that type of relationship. So it's like especially a guy who has like when I've been around men that have money or like are very powerful, they like to be told what to do a lot of the times. And so especially a lot of times those guys are not the ones that know what they're doing. So if you act all submissive and stuff like that, that doesn't really get to them. But if you're like, hey, I want this, but there's still a way to do it. Like nobody, unless they ask to be degraded, usually nobody really wants to be degraded. Yeah.
So, and I mean that's a whole nother topic, but there's a balance in terms of like I think everybody has like I've said this before to a number of people. I feel like everybody has like this yin and yang in them, and there's like this balance of submissiveness and dominance. And so for people, there are a lot of people which I've seen over the years in terms of just my observations, where you'll see a lot of people who are normally successful in everyday life. They're doing really well, they make a lot of money, they've been in these positions of like dominating for so long, and so when it comes to sexual play, they like to try out the submissive part. They like that balance of like being submissive in the bedroom, and that's why you do ended up having like a lot of white guys who are very powerful who end up in somebody's cage and getting stepped on by a mistress somewhere, whereas like you have some people who may not live that more dominant life, but they have a desire to be there, and so they can act and play that out in the dominant role with somebody. But yeah, when it comes down to, and then of course you have people in the middle. You have people they call switches, of course, that move freely between dominance and submission. And so yeah, when it comes to like the right partners, you do have a lot of men who are very open to receiving that kind of like submissive tone from a person saying like eat my pussy or like, do this for me, and like they like that kind of like to relinquish that power. They don't want to always have to hold on to dominance. They like being able to like rest and relax. And so we understand the soft life too. We get it.
Sometimes. but I think it's like it's more about like intimacy, right? Like I feel like this is the conversation where I want to shift people towards as far as when it comes to sex, because I love sex. I know Milton loves sex, probably more than I do. But I think sometimes when it comes to these types of conversations about destigmatizing certain sexual acts or certain things and how we see the body, it's about focusing more like on intimacy. Now you need to get more comfortable with the body. If you have a problem with receiving oral or eating pussy, like you need to like reflect on why is that, maybe where that came from. Is it religious trauma? Is it your parents? And focus more on the act as something that's loving, something to bring you closer to your partner, bringing pleasure to your partner, and like having more of an exchange of pleasure in the experience, exploring and having fun, and not focusing so much on like, oh, I'm doing this or I have to do this. And I've heard plenty of people say this, and I feel the same way. Like, if you don't want to do it, I prefer you not to do it. You can feel and tell. A woman can too, just like a man can, when you don't want to do something and you're kind of just like hesitant. You can also tell when a person is not super confident, because I've been in a situation where, you know, he just had flashbacks, where he was actually doing a pretty good job, but you could tell he was hesitant. It's probably something that maybe he doesn't do all the time, and then he's like coming up and he's like, you know, or whatever. But someone can feel your energy, and I feel like as you get older, that becomes more important, especially as you become more experienced, feeling the subtleness of like how somebody's doing something, their intentions, and the energy behind what you're doing. So like, try to, you know, allow yourself to filter out things that may be negative or make you hesitant about doing it if it's something that you enjoy, you're curious about, and think of it more as like a time to explore and a time to exchange pleasure with your partner.
Yeah. And I mean, and I've also kind of seen this over the years as well, where I feel like a lot of people won't enjoy something if they don't feel that they're good at it. If they're not receiving a response, or they're not receiving like validation that what they're doing is good, then it starts to not feel fun anymore. It doesn't feel like exciting anymore, and they don't want to continue to do it. And so, you know, there are, I think, a lot of men sometimes who, you know, they aren't asking for that feedback. They're not, you know, checking to see, hey, like, what does this feel like, or how does this feel? And so because they're not receiving anything, and the partner, you know, there are small things that can slowly crush a man's soul when you're in the middle of sex. So like, if you're eating a woman's pussy and she says, it's okay, just fuck me, and like, that will like crush a man so bad. Like, and it's generally because he's not asking the questions. He's not saying like, hey, does this feel good or whatever. But like, you know, you go on for a long enough time, and a woman's just kind of like, actually, you know what? You just come up here. And I know a lot of women have done it, and they might not even think about it, but you might not think that it'll affect the man's like confidence like that, but that can crush you. Now, of course, you know, we always recommend like really taking your time and learning. And to learn about this, we have another video that's posted that's going to be about techniques for eating pussy. So definitely go check that out. Watch that. We teach you about anatomy, and we're going to teach you about techniques on how to actually like really find the flow with you and your partner in terms of like learning how to like learn their body. But anyway, back to what we were saying. When it comes down to the mechanics of like, you know, how you move in play or how you move in bed, a lot of people just have this notion in the back of their head that if they ask the question, it's gonna mess up the mood and it's gonna turn the other person off. Whereas like, a lot of women really do appreciate you being vocal and asking and saying like, hey, what is this doing for you? Do you have something? Do you already know something that you want me to try on you that makes you enjoy this? And because it's almost funny, because like when I meet somebody and they tell me their first thing is like, yeah, you know, I'm not really a person who's really in the head. My brain is in the back like, okay, sure, yeah, you know. But and I was like, it's probably, in my head I'm like, you know, I can hype myself up sometimes, but I'm like, it's probably because you ain't been with a person who knows what they're doing. And I've been in situations where I've, you know, ate pussy and they're like, what the fuck, like, I didn't know that shit could feel like that. Like, but you know, it's taking the time, it's being patient and learning and all those things. But yeah, the stigmas are really eating people up in a lot of our culture and community.
Yeah, and you really miss out on a lot. One thing that Tantra and practicing new yoga has done for me is get me more comfortable with my body, and also just having great eaters. I remember my first experience with like the girl from college. She was an upperclassman, and she used to say, to get me comfortable with the idea of her going down on me, she would say, oh, you know, this is the cleanest part of your body, and all of this other stuff, and like, I had never heard that. So when I was going through the experience of like just having somebody enjoying doing that to me, and basically that's all we did, and she wanted to do it all the time, it made me see my body differently. It made me feel different about like my pussy just in general. And So you're giving the gift of like, especially when you are going down on a woman and you really care and you really enjoy it. Like there's women are constantly being objectified. They're, eating stuff and shaving and plucking and waxing and worried about how big their lips are, small they are. We've got all these surgeries and stuff out. And so when you give the gift of eating pussy to a woman and she receives a lot of pleasure from it and you're not rushing her and you're not rushing her into orgasm, stuff like that. One thing I want to talk about is like even like giving affirmations, talking, like the stuff that she's done to me. Yeah, all of that is all of that, it can be healing. And and that's when like you're alchemizing your sexual energy into something that can really make someone better. Like sex is serious. I mean, it doesn't have to be serious, but it can be. And when it's beautiful in that way, you see a woman open up, because I feel like a lot of guys want to see a woman in her most authentic erotic state. And I feel like eating pussy is one of the best ways to get there. Now, if you know how to stroke and you know how to use the dick afterwards, then you're definitely going to see more. But I feel like that's the beginning of it. Like when you can really enjoy eating a woman out and driving her crazy just from that, then that's when you get to the 10, 12 orgasms in one session and not just, I made her come 2 times.
Yeah. And so, I mean, a lot of guys can sometimes assume, and I'm not going to say just guys, but a lot of people can assume that it's just about the technique that will make you find pleasure. Like knowing where the spots are, knowing here and there. But at the same time, any type of sexual intercourse or interaction also kind of can revolve around, it revolves around the mental as well. So there's a reason why a lot of women love vocal men or vocal partners, because like being able to like use your words and say like, oh, this is so good. Like just showing that you are present and showing that what you like, being vocal about what you like or what you're enjoying or how you see it, and like, oh my gosh, this is the prettiest pussy I've ever seen in my life, or oh my gosh, you taste so delicious. Like that will ignite like even more like women will be like, oh my gosh, my pussy just clenched, like because you say something like that, like saying like I love hearing those type of things, like and then the sex becomes, and this is coming from experience, the sex becomes top tier the more you communicate during sex. So like if I'm saying like, oh, this is great, and you're telling me right there, oh, I love how you're doing this, it ignites the feel, like it allows your brain to relax more. It allows you to like focus more on the pleasure and less on the extra parts of like or the things that you may have been worrying about before, whether or not you feel like I've had people who've complained that they've been like, oh my gosh, my pussy's fat, it's ugly. And I'm like, what? And then I've had people who be like, oh, my pussy's like not fat, it's ugly. And I'm like, what? Like it's like people will find reasons to complain about all kinds of things.
Well, they've heard stuff.
Yeah, based on like insecurities. And so of course that vocalization and that those words of affirmation during sexual intercourse or sexual like play can be really, really important. And sometimes it's not the easiest thing to get into, because of course you want to focus and you want to make sure you're doing the right thing. And but sometimes it's not always recommended to make sex so serious. Like sometimes you just kind of go with the flow, like just kind of relax into it and just play around with it, and like, take your time.
So basically you're saying that don't get too in your head and be too technical, and try to make it feel like stay present in the experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You always get an A for good effort, but yeah, you do need to learn. But yeah, I think that eating pussy is truly a gift that you can give, especially when you're doing a good job. And hopefully people will, this trend of like of being open about who are the eaters, and being proud to be good eaters, and women also knowing that they deserve to have pleasure, but not holding it over the head. What do you want to add?
No, I was like, I do have a question. What do you feel? I know we made in a video, I asked you about what's your favorite time. What do you feel like was your worst experience being a receiver?
My worst experience.
You ain't gotta say no names.
Well, they're probably not going to see this. Probably when I was in a relationship where they were not doing it, and then I asked about it, and eventually they started doing it, so I had to go through the process of them getting comfortable with it, and they just weren't that great at it, because I think they had to also release the stigma and get into it, and I think they were kind of doing it because like it's like, okay, I guess I need to start doing this now. And so I don't think it was so much that like I'm sorry, this is my marriage. So and the reason why this is important is because I got married young, and he was young, and then he came from the South, deep in the Delta, Arkansas, hung around older uncles and all of that stuff. So all of that stuff played a part, and I don't necessarily fully blame him for like his conditioning, but like I was also very inexperienced besides what I experienced in college with that one girl. And I had a bush. Like, I didn't know women were shaving. I had never seen porn and all this stuff. And I remember him saying, well, if you want me to go down, you at least shave. I'm like, oh, I didn't know. So it was just kind of like very awkward. So I would say that.
I did not care. I was like,
so I feel like that probably was the worst experience, but it still wasn't. It wasn't like horrible. And then there was an experience where I had,
I can share mine.
Yeah, but I just want to say this one thing, like, because this is really important, like when I got bit. So but I'm not saying he was not bad. I just think he loved eating pussy, and he loved eating my pussy, and it was like a ritual situation, and he ate it for a very, very long time. And so, like, I think when he got into whatever zone, he would bite, and I'd be like, ugh, and he would still do it. I'm like, But yeah, those were probably my worst experiences.